Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you all about some of the books that I've read recently. But before we get into that, first I'd like to say, sorry I look so fucking crusty. It's because I haven't been able to wash my hair yet, and if I had decided to wash it first before filming this video would not exist. So I decided let's look crusty and actually get some content done over, not looking crusty, but then y'all wouldn't get a video. So that's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up. And then second, sorry that I didn't upload a video last week. I only have Fridays to film videos, and so my friends wanted to hang out last Friday, and I was like, hanging out with friends, filming a video, it wasn't really a choice, you know what I'm saying? So I decided to go out with my friends, so no video got filmed last week. But I'm here now, and I'm here to talk about some of the books that I've read recently. I'm trying out this method because in January, a wrap-up, that was a hot-ass mess. I talked for too long, so let's see if I can actually get through these 4 books I'm going to be mentioning to you all quickly. We'll see how that goes. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore. In this book, we're following a dual timeline. There's the 1500s timeline, where a dancing fever has broken out in this small town, and people, well actually, I don't think it's a small town, but the point is that this dancing fever has broken out in this town, and people are dancing to the point of death, and one of the main characters is blamed for this dancing fever, and so she has to find a way to stop this fever, or she's going to be burned at the stake, essentially. And then in our present timeline, we're dealing with this girl who suddenly starts dancing uncontrollably. Not all the time, but sporadically she just starts dancing, and again, almost to the point of harming herself, of killing herself. And she is falling in love with this boy who is actually distantly related to the girl of our 1500s timeline. So that's kind of the gist of the story. It's also a retelling of The Red Shoes. I've never read that fairy tale, but whatever. Guess y'all should know about that. So how did I feel about this book? The thing is that I love Anna Marie McLemore. I love their writing. I think their prose is beautiful and poetic and amazing. And like, when I was reading this book, I could not stop thinking about the book, and I could not stop thinking about the language of the book. I was really absorbed in it. But I finished this at the beginning of February, and I have to say that I've forgotten most of it. Like, the impact, not the story itself, but like the impact it had on me has kind of like dulled very quickly, which I find very unusual because I genuinely really enjoyed this book. And if you guys check out my Goodreads review, you'll see that basically I'm just glowing about it. I'm just saying really positive things because ultimately that's how I was feeling in the moment. I thought the writing was beautiful. I thought the plot was engaging, although again, with Anna Marie McLemore, it's not really about plot as much as it is about kind of, I don't know, but it was weird. It was weird having that experience that I loved it in the moment, but I kind of haven't thought about it at all since reading it. But there were 2 things that made me love this book, even if I no longer feel as strongly about it. And mostly it's that in one of the timelines, the ending is really, really happy and joyful and queer, and it made me really happy while I was reading it. It was amazing. Like, was it believable? No, but I don't think it was meant to be. It was just meant to give you that sensation of happiness. And so I really appreciated that reading it. And then the other thing is that what makes this story really beautiful, that it's a lot about understanding and learning about the trauma that might be in your heritage and embracing that heritage and learning to love it and live by it, like with joy and with strength, and just being proud of everything that has happened to your family and how they've overcome it and stuff like that. So I just thought that was really, really beautiful. And I'm just kind of sad that the impact didn't last as long. So I'm not changing my rating for this. I rated it 5 stars, but I don't know. I think I have to reread it to really know what it means to me, I guess. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. So if y'all have watched some of my first videos, y'all know I'm a Maggie Stiefvater stan. I would die for her. I live for her. She's my everything. So I picked up The Scorpio Races because it was one of the books that was also on my backlist. It was on my TBR that I was like, I need to get around to reading this book. So I picked it up, and let's start with a summary of what it's actually about. The Scorpio Races is about this little island town, I guess, called Thisbe, where every autumn, I guess, horses appear from the ocean, and they're like magical kind of fae horses. They're killer horses. They're really violent and shit. And so in this town, there's this whole race competition going on where people take these horses from the ocean and they train them for these races, which they call the Scorpio Races. And it's about 2 main characters. One of them, she really needs money because she's on the brink of losing her home, and she doesn't want to lose her home. And the other character really loves this horse, this killer horse, but it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the man that he works for. And so it's high stakes for him, this particular race, if he wants to buy his horse that he loves with his whole heart, you know. So this book was really frustrating to me, and I feel really weird because recently I've watched both videos and read reviews of people reading this book recently and really loving it, but I had a mixed experience with this book. I was bored throughout the majority of it. 2/3 of it, I could not have cared less. Like, we're talking about killer horses. We're talking about horses that literally kill, and I didn't care. I didn't care about the stupid horses. I didn't care about the stupid race. I couldn't have cared less about any of the things going on. Like, I felt no connection to the characters. I felt no intrigue about the horses. It was just kind of like, I picked it up as an audiobook, and I was just sitting there on the bus listening to it and going like, when will this be over? Why am I still listening to it? And honestly, the only reason I stuck to it is because it was Maggie Stiefvater. Yet at the same time, the only way I found enjoyment from it was by telling myself, forget that it's by Maggie Stiefvater. So it was an experience, I guess. And the frustrating part about it as well is that I really did love that final third of the book. I finally got invested once the 2 main characters started to get to know each other better and started to spend more time together. And I ended up feeling very invested in their relationship and seeing them get really close and falling in love. So I have that frustration of like, I ended up really liking the romance and the interactions between the 2 main characters, but everything building up to that was just nothing. It made me feel nothing. I didn't care. Like, I didn't hate it. It wasn't like a painful reading experience, but I really didn't want to pay attention. I was listening to the audiobook just to listen to something. It wasn't because I was invested or anything. But by the time Sean and Puck, that's the name of the 2 main characters, by the time Sean and Puck started actually becoming friends and then falling in love, that's when it really, things clicked into place, and I was invested, and I wanted to know who would win the race, and I wanted to know what would happen with their relationship. But in general, I just feel conflicted, okay? That's why I ended up rating this book 3 stars, because I was so bored throughout the majority of it that it doesn't feel right to rate it anything higher, even though I literally almost cried by the end of this book. Like, literally the last fucking chapter, I swear to you, I was this close to crying. The only reason I did not cry was because I was in public and out with my friends. So I was like, I cannot do this right now. I cannot cry over a boy and his horse. I can't do it. But it's still not enough for me to say it's a 4 or 5-star read. I just can't. So that's that on that. Again, I feel like I was very repetitive, but I'm rusty from just 1 week of not filming, so deal with that what you will. This next book was one I definitely loved and adored and had a blast with. So I read The Summer of Jordi Paris and The Best Burger in Los Angeles by Amy Spalding, and it was a blast. I loved it. I loved it with my whole heart. It was such a fun time. It was such a fun time. So, what is this book about? It's a YA contemporary romance about this girl who applies for this internship at this clothing store that she really loves, and she gets the internship, but so does another person. So she and this other girl are competing for the same job position, because in this internship, this summer internship, usually the person who gets the internship ends up working for the store. So now they have to compete for the same job. But it's not as intense, I guess, as that might sound. It's not really like a hate to love romance or any of that. It's really just cuteness. But it also has like themes of like fat phobia and homophobia and stuff like that. And it was a time and a good one at that. I gave this book 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars. It's not because it's a perfect book, but it's because it gave me what I needed. I was desperate for a book like this where I could just be happy. But I picked up this audiobook and I just had a good time throughout all of it. Beginning to end, I was invested. I was in it to win it. I was ready. Like, I just wanted to listen to it without stopping because it was just that much fun and I had such a good time listening to it. And part of that is because the main character, listening and reading about this main character just openly having a crush on this girl and just like totally being like obsessed with her and like thinking about her all the time and just thinking she's amazing and being like, oh my god, all the time. It was so much joy. It brought me so much joy to just read about queer joy. Like, y'all don't understand my commitment to queer joy. Like, queer happiness is what I thrive on, and this book just showed that to me even more, because just, even though I didn't like the love interest that much, I didn't like Jordi all that much, I didn't think she was all that interesting, reading about Abby really being into this other girl was just the time of my life. It was great. It was amazing. And then, on top of that, we also have this great female-male friendship that I was like, fuck yes! Amazing! Beautiful! A work of art! Jax is such a dumb hoe, and I love him, and his friendship with Abby was life-giving. It was so sweet to see them interact. I lived for it. That's the only thing that I'm kind of sad of, that I like the friendship between Abby and Jax more than I like the relationship between Abby and Jordi. But honestly, it was happiness all around, so ultimately, it doesn't matter which relationship I liked most. All that matters is that I was happy, I was having a good time, and yeah, that's what matters. That's what I'm here for. Like, y'all might think I'm here to be critical of books and shit, but honestly, ultimately, if I have a good time, I'm gonna give it a good rating. Lastly, I'm gonna be talking about a book that I literally finished minutes before filming this video, and I literally finished it because I only had 3 books to talk about because I want to do a Blackathon wrap up separately. So I have other books that I've finished before this one, but again, I wanted to put all those books that I read for that readathon together. So that's why we're talking about Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. So this book is about this country that is divided between 2 peoples. There was a revolution, and so the Laxons, I'm gonna call them the Laxons because I don't actually know how to pronounce the fucking name of the people, but the Laxons led this revolution, and they won against the people who were in power, who are called the Illustrians. And so now they've been in power for quite a few years. And the book follows the main character, who is the decoy of the princess, essentially. The Condesa is what they call her. She's the decoy of the Condesa of the Illustrians. And so the Illustrians are trying to get back in power because, you know, that's kind of what happened. And so essentially the decoy is sent into the castle because the king, the current king, wants to marry the Condesa to basically get back like all the power over all the land. And so she's sent to the castle to basically prepare for this marriage that obviously would be a sham marriage because the real Condesa would be in the sidelines preparing to fight and stop this wedding, essentially. What I can say about this book is that I actually really fucking enjoyed it. I had a really good time reading this book. I was actually surprised by it because I was reading this one at the same time that I was reading The Summer of Jordi, and I was like, how can I love two books so fucking much at the same time? I'm like, it's unnatural to be having such a good time. Because honestly, I'm a very picky reader. So genuinely, if I'm having a very good time with everything that I'm reading, I'm shocked. So I really got into this book really easily. I found it very easy to read and want to pick up, and I was interested in what was going on. And one of the main things that I enjoyed about it was like there was a hate to love romance in this. Like the main character, the decoy, and the healer of the castle like falling in love, and this like back and forth between them because they're both prejudiced against each other because of, you know, the fucking war and the revolution and shit. And it was a good time. A good time was had. The only complaint I have about this book is that the end was so rushed. It was like the editor of Ibanez was like, bitch, finish this shit up, wrap it up. We don't have time for this. And I'm like, but take your time. Like, this is 365 pages, I think. Yeah, it's 365 pages. And I'm like, you could have gotten to the 400 page count. I'm like, they should have let her get to the 400 page count, because I feel like it needed that, because by the end of it, the stuff that happened really quickly, and it kind of ruined the buildup that was going on, because there was so much momentum, then by the end it felt like unrealistic. Like the things going on between the main character and the love interest, I was like, can we slow down? I'm like, we were at a slow pace. We were at a snail pace. Why are we suddenly saying I love you and you're my amor? And like, I'm like, let's calm down. Let's slow our roll. So that would be my only complaint about this book, that it was too fast. The end was too fast. Everything else about it though, I really enjoyed. It was good. It was good. I actually haven't settled on a rating for this, because again, I finished reading it before filming this video, so probably I'm gonna give it like 4 stars or 3.5 stars, because I really did think it was well written apart from the end. Like, I thought it was a solid debut and I had a good time reading it. Like, literally there's hardly any complaints I have about the craft of this book and the way it made me feel. So that's kind of why I'm like either a 3.5 or a 4 stars. This is the first book in a series, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading the sequel. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully it wasn't too rambly. I don't know what I'm doing with my life anymore. But if you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will leave all of that linked down below. So, see you next time.